Hello again. So this week, and actually from this point on, the videos will be uploaded from the class I did the previous week, so they should actually all start coming in on time now. I'm going to try and have them posted every Sunday, and it gives me a full week to edit them, and it should make things a lot smoother since I now have a little bit of a backlog. This week, what we're going to work on is core control and balance. This wasn't exactly what I had planned for the class that I led, but I had, like 2 hours before the class, I attended a seminar that Jan Novelia Sensei was instructing, and I kind of changed up my curriculum based on that because there were things I wanted to work on from it. So it might not flow quite as smooth as some of the others, but hopefully you'll find it interesting. All right, let's get to it. The setup for this one is actually super easy. All you need are two sticks, a long one and a short one. I'm going to be using a Joe and the Boken version of Wakizashi. We call it a Shoto, but probably has a better name than that. To start out, we're not actually going to need either of the sticks. These are some of the exercises I took from some of the things that we did during the seminar. So to start, we're going to start moving our core, and as it turns, it's going to pull on the rest of the body. And it's to feel the pull throughout your body. Your feet stay flat on the ground, and you should feel it torque and turn your legs. We're just going to try that a few times. And when you get to the end point, you'll release it. I noticed that if I engage my upper abs, I can start to feel it pull basically up my shoulder and down my arm, even though my arms are not in a set position. And yeah, I just let it snap back to center. You can also keep the tension and move it back to center. But to me, the interesting part is to feel it pull all the way down, basically to your toes. Well, to your toe and little finger is what it felt like most of the time. So now we're going to get more into the details. And I don't want to be using the hips to move. I really want this pull from the middle to pull everything else. Oh, also, I apologize for the kind of muscle shirt. I wanted people to be able to actually see a pattern, to see how that core moves. Here you can feel it. When one piece turns, I'm showing that I feel the leg turn inward and the upper body a little bit. And the feet the legs get torqued as I go one direction or the other. And you feel your feet turn and everything. So, as I said at the beginning, if you start to tighten your upper abs, you'll feel it up into your arms. Or at least I do. And down my arms. Because as that middle section turns, the upper abs are tight. They start to pull on the chest and the back, and that pulls the shoulders forward. Shoulders pull the triceps and biceps, it pulls the forearms, which pulls down to the pinky. You can even feel it pull up into the neck a little bit. But here you'll see every so like, my head isn't moving. It's moving separate as I turn a lot of the time. This is what not to do. Don't just turn your hips back and forth. At least for this exercise. It's all about building the control of the core. And then what you do with it afterwards can be used for lots of different things. At least at the schools I've studied, a lot of the time you have the warm-up exercise where you turn left and right so your body starts to move. But you can work on other things while that's happening if you want. Once we actually end up being able to go back to dojos and train. Yeah, see, my head is not. I end up turning my head because my body is moving, but it's not being pulled by the rest of the body. Unfortunately, I'll have to try and figure out how to get it to really feel it all the way up the neck and head and everything. And with this, really make sure that it's not your hip turning. Your core, your musculature, your core musculature turns and the hips follow, but it's not the hips causing the turn for this kind of work. So that was mostly ab work. Now we're going to try the lower back. Like specifically. So it's trying to turn me. It's actually one side pulls, one side pushes. It's the same kind of torque down the legs. If I'm a little slow on this one, I apologize. I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep right now. Been working on developing a game. Alright, so now we're going to try and use just half of our musculature. Here it's pushing forward. Instead of having one side push and one side pull, or have both sides try and do the same thing, we want just one side. Only reason is to build better control. And then later you can have them work in conjunction with each other. So it's that part of the lower back pushing forward, or the muscle expanding outward, or you can try the other side, contracting and pulling everything in. I mean, all this is me going through it, trying to figure it out. The seminar had some really interesting parts in it. Alright, so now we're going to try and use both together. So the abs will turn, the back will push or turn, and try and see how much of that stretches all the way through your body. And if you don't feel it stretching down to your feet, like have that section push and pull even more, exaggerate it even more until you can feel it. And here I'm showing. You don't have to just like let it snap back. You can try and keep tension throughout, so then when you get to the point where it would snap, you start to engage tension in the other direction without releasing the first tension, to make it more of an exercise. And that gets tiring, so shake your body out. Make sure you aren't going to screw up any muscles, because things happen. So next, we're going to try turning our abs inward and having that pull the rest of the body, that same pull that you felt, but when your abs are turning inward. I think it's Rickson Gracie has a very interesting breathing yoga video where you can really see how he can control his abs. Well, it's not just the abs, but it's that whole section. The amount of control he has on that is amazing. Here I'm just trying to get it so that part can pull the rest of the body and lead the rest of the body if I wanted to. So the same thing that we're doing with the abs, we're now going to do with the back. Which has a different shape from the front, basically. So yeah, your ab or your back, lower back turns inward, opening up the front of you or stretching out the front of you, and still goes all the way to the legs, and the feet are being turned in different directions. But since they're on the ground fairly flat, they're not actually turning, there's pressure being built up. So we turned our abs inward. Now we're going to push them outward, which should give us the same shape as the lower back turning inward. It feels a little different. So the shape's a little different, but it's the same general shape. And for me, this part, the abs don't work as well as the lower back. But for the next part that we're going to do with the lower back, the abs work better for me. Which could just be lack of practice, lack of control. I mean, all this is, I'm not going to say I know any of this, so It's just trying to figure things out, trying to understand how the body works, trying to understand how to get better control with it. But you see the result in the body isn't as dramatic as the other way. It doesn't create as much tension, doesn't snap the body back. So now, right, we turn the lower back inward. Now we're going to press it outward. That was the inward. So the opposite direction does outward. And for me, having the ab side lead this works a lot better. But if we practice all of them, whether like one works better than the other, it gives us options, gives us different things, and lets me understand each part better. So now we combine the two. And they're going to work in conjunction, right? If the abs turn inward, the back presses outward. If the back turns inwards, the abs press outward. You should start to really feel it throughout most of your body. But you really want to make sure that that core section, which I'm just saying are abs and lower back right now, that they lead the motion. There's probably more muscles in there that I'm specifically pointing out. I have to go get an anatomy chart out to try and figure out what's working. And here I'm just reversing the direction, right? So the back turns inward and the abs press outward. And don't be impressed by the shaky cam. The camera is just precariously balanced. All right, so now we're going to move to something a little different, which is closer to what I had originally planned. And we're going to try and find our balance point. So get the large stick, and you just don't lean on the large stick. It's just there for a little bit extra support. It's basically your safety net. And your goal is to stretch your body out and basically find your balance points. We're not really trying to correct much right now. But yeah, try to figure out how far can you go. And then we repeat it. This isn't how far can you get down, because there are better ways to do that. You actually want to get to a balance breaking point. If I didn't want to get to a balance breaking point, you shift your weight forward more so your legs can go forward as your back goes down. That's a different practice. And you'll notice that my hand is very light on the jaw. It's kind of like if you pick up one leg and you put a finger against a wall, even if you're not putting much pressure there, your balance is a lot stabler. Gives you a point of reference, I think. I should really look into why that is. Somebody's has to have done the research on it. Alright, so now we're going to actually try to start correcting. So when you get to your balance breaking point, try and use your abs or lower back, that core section, to correct. I tend to push them downward and then go a little further. But there are lots of different ways you can engage them in order to give yourself just a little bit more balance so you can go a little further. And it's an exploration, so. Alright, whichever ones you were using, like if you're using your abs a lot or your back a lot, then switch it. So if you're using your abs, use your back. If you're using your back, use your abs. And again, try and change your shape to balance a little bit more, and then press yourself out a little bit more. So I think in the 1, 2 before this, like the exercise 2 before this, we were doing a little bit of the correction. And the one before this, you're just supposed to figure out whether you're using your abs or back. Lack of sleep, not always a good thing. Not always a bad thing either. All right. So we've done to the back. Now figure out your balance to the side. And do the same thing. And again, notice how lightly I'm holding onto the Joe. Like I probably don't need it for this exercise, in all truth. All right, here I'm talking about how there's a lot of weight in that one leg, which makes sense. But how can I shift things in my body? Basically turn the core, press it, which pushes my hips over a little, takes a little weight off that leg, puts a little bit more on the other, and I can go a little further. And then I try again. Here you can see like the leg closest is really light. So how do I find a way to get more weight to it? My abs shift and press down towards that leg. Changes to the hip a little bit more weight's on that leg. Now I'm able to go a little further. Like I said, this is all an exploration. There are other ways that you can do this. And why is it useful? Because it gives you better body control. Alright, we did to the back, we did to the sides. Now to the front. And this isn't just bowing, right? It's not just you let your hips go. I'm really trying to let my forward body lean and pull the rest of my body. I'm trying to find a point of imbalance so I can correct it. And at some point during this, I realized, oh yeah, well, don't just stick your butt out to correct your balance. Yes, it's a very easy way to correct your balance, but then you don't actually get to find other ways. And you probably already know that one. So yeah, I think that was the point where I looked at the tablet that I was recording. I was like, and this is where you look like an old man. Never look at the tablet. Yeah, see, so it pushes in and down the leg a little bit, which turns the hips a little. Alright, so now, done with the stick for a while. Just stand on one leg, get used to it. Start to lean in directions and find what your balance point is. And challenge yourself. If you don't find yourself on the edge of your balance, go a little further. Yeah, there I'm talking about. There's a lot of tension in that leg, so like it feels weak, it starts to shake. So what do? I torque the leg slightly. Basically, I turn it against the foot that's planted. There, right? That direction that you saw with the hand, that's the direction the leg's turning, which makes it a little more stable, at least for me. And it doesn't seem like it's not torquing the knee a lot. It's pulling the muscles tight, kind of. Different feeling. But I wouldn't recommend torquing it a lot, just a tiny bit to get that little stability. Well, to get the tightness, which gives stability. And the hands just at my center is kind of habit from some other stuff. All right, so now we're going to start to use the core, the thing that we've been using this whole time. And I'm using it right now to press into the leg that's holding me up. In an attempt to go a little further with whatever direction I'm trying to go. You can try other things too. It doesn't have to press. You can try turning it. You can try pulling it. Whatever you want, basically. You just try and figure out how to go a little further. And then try and whittle down what muscles you're using. Because chances are, at least at the beginning, or like when you're trying to figure something out, you're going to use way more muscles than you need. And that means you can't use those for something else. Alright, so there it's turning to press down the leg. Maybe I should have studied ballet, then I'd be good at this stuff. Unlike now. I'll have to go look at what their exercises are. Yeah, there I'm just saying, if you're ever going too far and you have a leg extended like that, if you just pull the leg in, stability will return much easier. Odd how that is. Pulling your weight over your planted leg makes things, easier. Alright, so we were pressing it. Now we're going to turn it in order to try and stabilize. Alright, so before I was pressing, now I'm going to turn inward or outward and see if that helps. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. See there, my front is opening, front's closing, or my abs are turning inward and my abs are pushing outward, along with the lower back doing the opposite. There, I struggle with my balance. Which is the point. And I'm noticing that if I push my abs outward, turn my back inward, I tend to sink and fall into that planted foot. In the other direction, I don't fall to the back of the leg, I fall to the front of that planted leg. Alright, so now we're going to close our eyes and just stand on one leg. From this point on, it's going to be a lot more focused on balance than on the core motion. Going a little bit back to what I had originally planned. Though there are things like that stumbling you see there. At the seminar we were trying, one of the things that he was working on was determining which part of your foot has weight. So you can actually, during this exercise, you can focus on that and try and move it to different parts, right? Because you have for him, you have the toes, the pads, the side of the foot, the heel. I think those were the contact points he mentioned. For me, there's a bit more, like there are different parts of the heel. That side pad, you can go a little bit more on the inside of it, more on the outside of it. The top pad below the toes, there are a whole bunch of different areas that you can apply like weight to. All right, so people were having problems with the eyes closed, so what do? You add another thing for the mind to think about. So we're going to get our short stick. You're going to balance that on your foot. There, I hop back because I'm not in the camera for the class, so they couldn't see what I was doing. But the point of this is to get your mind off of the balancing, well, off of you balancing on your leg and onto balancing the stick on your foot. Distracted, basically, because you know how to stand, you know how to balance. And a lot of it, especially with your eyes closed, tends to be you just start overcompensating for everything. So now we're going to close our eyes again. Balance the stick on your foot, and there are lots of places you can balance it on your foot depending on the level of difficulty you want. I recommend starting at the base of the toes because you probably have much better fine motor control of that area. It can turn upward to give yourself a little bit of a hook to hold the stick a little better. You can also try the top of the foot, which is going to be more difficult than the base of the toes. You can try the ankle, which should be easier than the top of the foot because it can also turn upward a little bit to hold it. It all depends on how much difficulty you want to add to this. And you probably want it difficult enough that you're no longer thinking about the standing balance part, but not so difficult that you fail every time. A little bit of success isn't that bad. If you're always succeeding, you probably need more challenge, because then you're not growing, which is one of my problems with always repeating things. So here I'm trying it on the ankle and showing a little leg. Now the other ankle. I mean, the eyes are still shut, and you'll notice the standing balance is better than earlier on. Doesn't mean I'm balancing the stick well, but the other part is getting better. I think this is when someone was talking about kicking the stick up to their hand. Which should be possible, but not for me right then. but you should be able to balance it well enough to be able to get it up to your hand. Ta-da! Alright, so now we make it a little more difficult. Instead of just picking it up, you want to balance it and then move your leg. So you have even more to think about. And again, the eyes are shut. Right, and the standing balance has gotten a lot calmer. Since I'm worrying about this stick, I'm not over adjusting anywhere near as much to stabilize the standing on one leg, which is kind of cool. Because it shows the theory that a mind can only think about one thing at a time, though it can switch tasks very quickly. I should really fact check that piece of information, since I don't remember where I heard it from. So something someone mentioned in the class is that putting it actually on their arm gave them a lot more balance, which is kind of interesting, and I'm not really sure why this works. But it seems like it almost gives you a horizon to pay attention to. Right here, I'm trying to test moving my leg a little bit to see. Yeah, I'm really not sure why that works. Because balancing something on the arm isn't that difficult. And it's in there, right? See, I'm able to move, at least for a while. And when you balance on something like the forearm that can't close around it, like bouncing on your wrist or your fingers, a little too easy. So when all that becomes easy, what do? You get a larger stick. Because every wrong motion is going to be a lot more apparent. And any of the exercises before, you can try with this. falls. So basically, for this part, just try a different part of your body. You've been trying the foot and the arm. I'm going to try the shoulder. You can try the top of the head. You could try, tricep, biceps area. You could try your thigh. You could try your shins. Like, lots of different areas. It's really just to build calmness. And you'll notice I'm turning my shoulder a little bit to give it an area to lay on, but the arm is fairly relaxed. So you kind of want to keep every other point still able to move and be useful. But you'll also notice I'm not like bringing my shoulder up to my ear to hold it. I'm just flattening it out a little. I mean, it's kind of interesting how much you can move while balancing something. Once you get it balanced, which, as we're seeing, can sometimes take a little while. I mean, a goal would probably be to get so much body control there, like, right, the arm is able to move, the shoulder is handling the balance, but that you could balance it anywhere. So that way, different parts of your body can handle different things at the same time. And if I could take a bow like that, I would, but I don't know how. So, one of the people's having a problem balancing it on their shoulder, and we tried to figure out a way that would work, and that was all happening right now. And like, one of the options was, what if you put it on the shoulder and then have your back muscles pull back, like into the lower back area that pushes forward, right? In order to flatten the area a little bit. Didn't necessarily work, but we tried. Yeah. Yeah, so here I'm explaining how, what if that all pulls? So it turns the shoulder back and flattens it a little. I hope the rambling wasn't too bad this time around. Apologize for it. Hope this was interesting. Yeah, until next time. Thanks for watching. Yeah, and then I hit the ceiling. That's a great way to finish.